Hey guys, welcome back to Gatsu Gaming. Wanted to have a quick chat with you guys about something that's very near and dear to my heart. It is the Holy Paladin in Battle for Azeroth. Now, as some people may know, longtime viewers of the channel would know that I actually have been playing Holy Paladin for Mythic Plus pretty much exclusively here in Legion. Now, moving over to BFA, there's quite a few changes because of the loss of the absolutely amazing thing that is our artifact weapon, that big, beautiful two-hander that I'm missing very, very dearly right now. So HPAL has changed a good bit, and it's mostly for the better. We've gone away from some really gimmicky things to some more consistent healing, and some actually significantly more fun talent choices. So let's go ahead and jump right into the talents here. So our talent row, some of them have been shifted around just slightly. A couple have been removed entirely. You've gotten a couple new ones. So let's talk about what I feel is one of the most interesting in the first row. Crusader's Might. Now, Crusader's Might is something that has been around since last expansion there. Crusader Strike reduces the cooldown of Holy Shock and Light of Dawn by 1.5 seconds. This essentially lets you DPS to get more healing. This is pretty much the only thing I take when I'm running Mythic Plus or selling carries. It is just incredibly strong to give you more healing for simply helping out and doing the damage like you're supposed to be doing in Mythic Plus anyway, when you don't have to worry about actually healing. The next talent there is Bestow Faith. This is a talent that I don't use very often. I probably should use it more often and get more used to it. But this is an instant cast, 1200 mana heal, 12 second CD. It puts a pseudo hot on the target. It's basically a delayed heal. Begins mending them for 10,000 damage, or 10,000 after about 5 seconds. Sorry, about 5 seconds is wrong. It is actually 5 seconds. This is primarily used in Raid. When I've been raiding, I've used it. In Mythic Plus, I've almost never actually needed this. Most of the time, Crusader's Might covered me, or if I really needed extra AoE healing, like I do right now in beta, I've been taking Light's Hammer. Light's Hammer, 5600 mana, 1 minute CD, gives you that very iconic hammer on the ground. Just hurls a big hammer on the ground. It does holy damage to any enemy within range of it, and heals up to 6 nearby allies for a pretty minuscule amount every 2 seconds for 14 seconds. This is typically just that little bit extra that you need to get over those big bursty or really nasty AoE abilities, or whenever you pull slightly too much and your DPS hasn't stopped on bursting and you just need a little bit of extra help. This is primarily what I use for damage right now in Heroics, because I'm not really able to get much damage or utility out of Crusader's Might at this point with the gear that I currently have. So level 30 row here, this is our movement slash range slash... I don't even know what. This row is kind of wonky. So we have Cavalier, which is our Divine Steed, now has 2 charges. I take this nearly all the time just because I'm normally running with a DK... Sorry, not a DK. A Demon Hunter, or a Monk Tank. This just lets me keep up as Paladins are actually a little bit on the slower side. Unbreakable Spirit reduces the cooldown of your Divine Shield, Divine Protection, and Lay on Hands by 30%. As covered in the Ret video, this is great when you just need those extra cooldowns. As a healer, of course, it gives you Lay on Hands slightly sooner, which, depending on what you're doing, may be incredibly valuable to you. This will typically be picked on higher keys, just for that extra bit of healing, or the extra CD reduction for typically Divine Protection, which is kind of like a mini shield wall. The last one here, Rule of Law, I typically only really use this for raiding. This just increases the range of your heals and the reach of your Mastery Lightbringer by 50% for 10 seconds. If there's something, you're going to be doing a lot of encounters where there is just a lot of people out of range, the group is super spread out. If you're doing something super chaotic and weird in Mythic Plus, Rule of Law is incredibly useful. This is primarily used in raiding, which I don't heal very often, if at all. So I don't take this talent too much. I typically, again, take Unbreakable Spirit or Cavalier, depending on what I'm doing at the time. So the 45 row here, this is the same across all 3 specs. Fist of Justice. Judgment reduces the remaining cooldown on Hammer of Justice by 10 seconds for Holy. This is different than for Retribution, of course. This is normally what I pick when I am running Crusader's Might as well, because I'm typically DPSing, and having Fist of Justice up constantly is almost giving us an interrupt back. Almost. So here we have Repentance. Same uses as it does for Ret, just getting rid of that one mob in a pool can mean your group skirting past that really nasty fortified pack or not. Super useful, also lets you skip mobs, which is really great. Blinding Light, I don't take this very often, if at all, just because I normally don't want this over Fist of Justice. There are definitely some mobs that are not stunnable, and if that is the case for you, Blinding Light is totally worth it. The level 60 row here, this is our auras. I do not believe these have actually changed very much. The numbers have changed, but not what they do. Devotion Aura is still that 10% damage reduction for everybody around you there, so that's 2% if the entire group is stacked in. This goes down very low now because it is only 10% as opposed to 20 baseline. Aura Mastery, of course, does give you that 20% raid wall, which can help out significantly in higher keys where you literally just need that percentage help. This is my go-to. I almost always take Devotion Aura, as this also allows me to soak mechanics where things are jumping at me, because an extra 10% reduced damage all the time just really helps keep me alive. Especially with us not having Pride as this expansion, this will be incredibly useful. So Aura of Sacrifice, while you're above 75% health, 10% of all damage taken by allies within 10 yards is redirected to you and reduced by half. While Aura Mastery is active, 30% is redirected and reduced by 75%. This has been reworked slightly, if I remember correctly. This is still very, very strong in raiding and will definitely be the pick for raiding. It is almost never the pick for Mythic Plus. Do not fall into that trap. Aura of Mercy. A lot of players think this is really good. I want to stress right now, this is not really good. Aura of Mercy has never been anything I want. I don't know why this talent is here anymore, other than if you have 3 Paladins. I guess having all 3 auras is good. But this is the weakest of all the auras by far. I do not see this as a choice personally. There are people that do take it. I would love to know their reasoning, so feel free to throw it at me. But I've almost never, ever gone for Aura of Mercy, and definitely not in a 5-man. Do not fall into the trap with that either. 75 row here, Judgment of the Light. Judgment now causes the next 25 successful attacks against the target to heal the attacker for 344. Seems like a very minor amount of healing, and it kind of is, but just having that passive healing is really, really useful in a raid setting. In a Mythic Plus, not so much. For Mythic Plus, I typically go with Holy Avenger. Just having that extra cooldown can make the difference between being able to complete a very large, dangerous pool, or potentially wiping and losing that key. This is a 1.5 minute CD, increases your haste by 30% and your Holy Shock healing by 30% for a full 20 seconds. For 20 seconds, you essentially have Heroism on top of extra Holy Shock healing. This is incredibly powerful whenever you add on top of that Sanctified Wrath or just plain old Avenging Wrath. Holy Avenger is very, very strong, especially with the very low amount of stats we have early on. This should be your go-to early, for sure. Holy Prism here. This is typically a DPS-oriented talent. I haven't really taken this at any point in Legion. I don't see myself picking it up in BFA very often, if at all. This is just a little bit of damage that will then radiate healing, or a little bit of healing that then radiates damage. Again, I feel like this talent is also kind of a trap with Aura of Mercy. There's people that swear by Holy Prism. I've never been a fan of it, but I don't like this one. I don't take this one. I go Holy Avenger. If you can make use of this well, and you're used to and comfortable with it, by all means go for it. But it's just not for me. So the level 90 row, this here is our big healing increase row. So we're going to start with Sanctified Wrath. Avenging Wrath lasts 25% longer and also reduces Holy Shock's cooldown by 50% for its duration. Just getting a little bit more time with your wings up is incredible. Reducing the cooldown of Holy Shock is incredible. It cannot be overstated how great this talent is, except that there is one talent that could potentially be the strongest talent we've ever had as a PvE healer, and that is Avenging Crusader. Avenging Crusader is absolutely nuts. It costs a good bit of mana, but you do not care how much. This could eat your entire mana bar and force you to pop a mana pot. I would still take this talent most of the time. 10,000 mana, instant, 2-minute cooldown, replaces your Avenging Wrath. You become the ultimate Crusader of Light. You get wings and your shield lights up, and it's awesome. It increases your Crusader Strike, Judgment, and auto attack damage by 30%. So it buffs your damage. Okay, where are you going with this? Crusader Strike and Judgment cooldown 30% faster. And they heal up to 3 injured allies for 250% of the damage they deal. This does last the full 25 seconds that Avenging Wrath would normally last for. This is incredible. This, in conjunction with Beacon of Virtue, as long as you have something to continually attack as a Holy Paladin, there is almost no way your group can die. And I mean anything. I have pulled some absolutely stupid things with my friends from Live, my normal Mythic Plus group, using this talent. And we were trying to kill ourselves, and we had a very, very difficult time making ourselves wipe when I popped this at the appropriate time when paired with Crusader's Might, Holy Avenger, and this. My god, the amount of healing you can do with this is insane. In 5-man content, this is definitely your pick 99% of the time. It is incredible. This is the talent, if anything, to look at and just go, damn, because that's what it is. It's crazy. Awakening is super lackluster. This shouldn't even be in the tree. I don't know why this is here. Light of Dawn has a 15% chance to grant you Avenging Wrath for 10 seconds. So the legendary helmet that we didn't really use ever in Legion unless it was your only legendary or one of your only 2 has been made a talent. I don't know if you can hear the crickets, but that's my reaction to that Awakening too. I don't know why this is a talent. The proc rate needs to be huge for this to be good. I don't get it. I don't know why it's here. Level 100 row, Divine Purpose. Casting Light of Dawn or Holy Shock is a 20% chance to not trigger the spell's cooldown and make the next cast free. Divine Purpose is great. It is super strong. Unfortunately, it is a choice between Divine Purpose and Beacon of Virtue. And whenever it comes down to Holy Paladin healing, I basically cannot pick Divine Purpose because I am so reliant on Beacon of Virtue to maintain healing on my entire group. I can't take Divine Purpose as much as I want to. If you are not the healer, say you have 2 Holy Paladins in your raid, I could definitely see one taking Beacon of Faith and the other taking Divine Purpose, or both taking Divine Purpose and not worrying about Beacon of Faith at all. In a 5-man situation, you can't pick either of these 2 talents and feel strong. You have to take Beacon of Virtue. Beacon of Virtue is incredibly strong. It gives you an 8-second window where you put a beacon on 4 total targets. That is your target and the 3 injured allies within 30 yards. And all affected allies are healed for 40% of the amount of your other healing done. So your Flash and Holy used on Holy Light used on those targets will also refund 20% of their mana cost. So this is also good for mana conservation. You, of course, do not get your standard beacon anymore, so you don't have that passive healing all the time. However, when it comes to AoE healing in a Mythic Plus, this is the only talent choice, and the only one I see taking ever in Mythic Plus. So over here in the spellbook, Absolution is just our AoE res. Definitely keep that around. You're definitely going to use it if you ever use a death strat. If you decide you're going to do some kind of goofy, healer invis through or pylon or whatever strat. Aura Mastery, still have our standard cooldown here. It just empowers your chosen aura and increases its radius to 40 yards for 6 seconds. This just basically gives you that big 20% damage reduction for your entire group. 9 times out of 10 it'll hit your whole group anyway, if it doesn't someone's too far away. Of course, that 20% damage reduction only with Devotion Aura. The other auras give you different effects. Avenging Wrath, we've gone over that here. This increases your damage, healing, and crit chance by 30% for 25 seconds. Super powerful. If you need to heal your tank, Avenging Wrath is the way to go. Pop that, get your group topped off, pair that with Beacon of Virtue, and just win the game. Beacon of Virtue replaces your standard Beacon of Light. Blessing of Freedom, this here is just one of those things you always have to drop on that target that gets snared. Use it on yourself to get out of roots, things like that. You'll use this a lot, make sure you keep it close. Blessing of Protection, I use this to save monks all the time. Monks are very good at DPS monks, I should clarify. Some DPS monks are very good at being slightly closer to mechanics than they maybe should be, or getting clipped, or just taking a little bit of more unusual damage than they should. I keep Blessing of Protection and Blessing of Sacrifice at the ready for them, just in case. Although this expansion, Blessing of Sacrifice, is probably better served as a slightly different utility, which I'll get to in a moment once I'm done with the spellbook. So Blessing of Sacrifice here, it reduces the damage taken on the target by 30%, so that's essentially a 30% damage reduction on whatever you need to get damage off, but you take 75% of that damage that you're preventing. So this is very useful to save a tank, however you have to be prepared for that incoming damage. Typically when you pop Blessing of Sacrifice, you will definitely go ahead and pop your Divine Protection, just to make sure that you do not end up getting too low on HP. Blessing of Sacrifice will stop working if you get below 20% HP, so make sure you are not low when you use it. We can cleanse poisons, diseases, and magic effects as a Holy Paladin. Make sure that's a very comfortable keybind. You're going to do a ton of it. Consecration has a 4-second cooldown. I believe it's 4.5 seconds baseline. It's down to 4.1 for me with haste. Just puts Consecration below you. It deals a little bit of damage over time to enemies who are in that area. It does last longer than the cooldown now, so you do not have to use this on cooldown anymore, which is a welcome change, especially if you have to move it when you're kiting down a hallway. You can still get something out of it, and there are Azerite traits that change how this functions. Crusader Strike, this is just a little bit of damage for us. Its only purpose as Holy, outside of taking the Crusader's Might talent, which reduces the CD of Holy Shock and Light of Dawn, is just for a little bit of damage. Divine Protection is our 20% shield wall. Lasts for 8 seconds, has a 1-minute CD. Pop this more often, guys. You definitely don't need to pop it on CD, but anytime you know you're going to be taking damage, just pop it if you know you're not going to need it a little bit later, and just save yourself a little bit of extra healing. Super useful to make sure you use this. Divine Shield, if you know there's going to be some horrible things happening, you want to make sure you never die. There you go, 8 seconds of immunity to all damage and harmful effects. Can't get over how good that is, and how powerful it is as a tool in Mythic+. So here we have Divine Steed. It just gives you that 3-second charger. You move 100% faster. You can use it indoors or in combat. Very good for getting the hell away with that mechanic you've got to get away with. Or just to keep up with your crazy Demon Hunter tank that never stops moving. Flash of Light, this is our, we're going to say, our empowered only heal with the way it feels in BFA at the moment. Expends a large amount of mana quickly to heal a friendly target for about 10,000 or so. You're typically only going to want to cast Flash of Light if you absolutely have to get that heal that quick, or if it is empowered after a Holy Shock. This is something that a lot of new healers fall victim of. They think they can just spam Flash of Light. With its mana cost and the mana pool and the current mana regen and throughput we have in BFA, you do not want to do that with Flash of Light. You will go super fast. So do keep an eye on your mana pool when you're playing HPAL now. We are not mana batteries anymore. Hammer of Justice, 6-second stun, 10-yard range, super good. Make sure you can hit it a lot. Hand of Reckoning, good for taunting those seagulls in Eye of Ashara. Very good in quite a few instances here, just to get something off the tank during Necrotic, or to, you know, keep that pesky bird from pecking him in the face. Holy Light. This is your mana-efficient healing spell. It actually heals for more than Flash of Light baseline, which is why you want to be using this heal when you need filler anymore. With the changes from losing the artifact weapon, Holy Light definitely needs to become your more comfortable heal. I found myself trying to use Flash far too much. Holy Light is where you want to be. So we are back to using Holy Light. And I am in no way, shape, or form against that. It's really, really good, and we got a really cool casting animation here. Oh, okay. I guess it's not going to show me the book anymore. Okay, then. Thanks, Blizzard. Thank you for removing the cool Holy Book. Thanks for making me look like a fool. I don't know where that animation went. I'm going to tweet about that. Holy Shock here triggers a burst of light on the target, dealing 4,400 holy damage to an enemy, or about 9,000 healing to an ally. This has an extra 25% crit chance. Now, they did change this from having double critical strike chance. That is something that is very important to keep in mind. Crit is no longer the be-all, end-all for Holy Paladin. You may hear people telling you that. That is not entirely the case. You now have to have a fairly balanced amount of stats. Crit is still very important, but crit, because you can no longer reach 100% on Holy Shock, there's no longer an artificial breakpoint, even though there's no longer a goal that you must get to feel efficient. Obviously, the more crit you have and the closer you can get to 50% is great, because obviously, you know, either it's going to crit or it's not, but of course that's true anyway. But Holy Shock will no longer be a guaranteed crit, which does reduce our healing a little bit, but we are now balanced around that with the increased healing we get through Holy Light, through our other cooldowns, so we're not going to miss that a whole lot. It is a playstyle change, though. Oh, and you're still going to use Holy Shock on cooldown. Don't think I didn't say that, because you're still going to use this on cooldown. Judgment. This judges the target, they take holy damage, causes them to take 30% increased damage from your next Crusader Strike or Holy Shock. Try to pair this with Holy Shock if you can, just because Crusader Strike still hits like a wet noodle, whereas Holy Shock hits a lot harder. Lay on Hands, 10-minute cooldown, of course, heals a friendly target for an amount equal to your maximum health. Super, super useful in a raid, and you know you will use this quite a bit, guaranteed. Light of Dawn, this is our bread and butter AoE heal, 2,800 mana, 11-second CD. Unleashes a wave of holy energy, healing up to 5 injured allies within 15-yard frontal cone for about 3,094. Now, Light of Dawn lost a lot of its luster from our artifact weapon, so this isn't as powerful as it once was. It is still very important that we use this, though. It is a lot of AoE healing, and it will help us set up for bigger healing. Light of the Martyr is getting a huge workout right now. This is super, super strong. It does pair well with Devotion Aura, because you do take reduced damage from it. So it's Light of the Martyr, 1,500 mana, instant cast, sacrifice a little bit of your HP pool to heal an ally, and you take damage equal to 50% of the healing done. This does not transfer to your Beacon of Light target, but whenever you're running Beacon of Virtue instead, that doesn't matter, and you don't care. You'll typically follow up a cast of Holy Light or Holy Shock, sometimes with a Light of the Martyr to top a player off. But you're going to use Light of the Martyr quite a bit, and there's some Azurite traits that buff other spells for using Light of the Martyr. So it looks like they're pushing us in the direction of using this spell a lot more often, which I'm okay with, because that does give us some interesting gameplay. Standard single target res here, brings them back with 35% max health and mana. Cannot be cast while in combat. Imagine that. It's like we don't have battle res as a paladin. Who'da thunk? So we still have Heart of the Crusader. We move 20% faster while mounted. Infusion of Light. Your Holy Shock criticals reduce the cast time of your next Holy Light by 1.5 seconds, or increase the healing of your next Flash of Light by 40%. The reason that this is super important to pay attention to is, again, and I cannot stress this enough, you will run out of mana if you spam Flash of Light. So you want to make sure that you're using your Holy Shock if you get a proc of Infusion of Light from a crit. Then you want to use your Flash of Light. If not, you're probably going to just want to use that Holy Light instead if you don't need that Flash of Light because you just know you're not going to. Pop that Holy Light out there a little bit quicker maybe, or just hold on to it. There's nothing wrong with holding on to an Infusion of Light proc if you don't need it right away. But of course, don't ever let it exceed your actual cooldown for Holy Shock. And our Mastery Lightbringer, this is still the same unfortunately, so I'm assuming that we are still a melee healer for mechanics, which has proven to be correct so far in dungeons. This just increases your healing done by whatever your mastery percentage is, based on the proximity of your target. It is very, very strong right now early on, because with our lower other stats, mastery stacks up very, very quickly numbers-wise for us. It scales quite well. And this is just great, especially whenever you're that melee healer. Just gives you a little bit of extra oomph when you need it, especially when you're under wings, and especially when you're popping Avenging Crusader. So overall, Holy Paladin is looking to be a very, very solid choice for Mythic Plus, and just in general in BFA. There are definitely some quality of life changes that we've gotten that may or may not be exactly what we were after. But to be completely fair, you know, no king rules forever, but Holy Paladin is still damn close. So thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video here, throw it a like. If you didn't like it, hit a dislike. Throw a subscribe at the channel if you enjoyed it so you can see when I do more videos here, trying to get to that magic number so I can click on that monetization and make some money while I'm helping you guys learn more about World of Warcraft and Mythic Plus in general. So once again, thanks for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you next time.